Recording. Okay. Well, a very good morning to everyone here. Welcome to the ASCILITE webinar on open educational resources in Australian higher education. I'm Alan Song, one of the executives in ASCILITE and serving as one of the team members of the ASCILITE, the webinar team. Now, this morning, we are very fortunate to have Dr. Carina Bossu from the University of Tasmania to facilitate this particular webinar. Now, this webinar is in the format of FICA. This is the first time that we are trying out this format, and Dr. Carina will be doing a short presentation, and after which the session will be more of a discussion as well as Q&A. I just want to introduce Dr. Carina Bossu. She's a lecturer, Learning and Teaching OEP, Open Educational Practices with the Tasmanian Institute of Learning and Teaching at the University of Tasmania. Her current work and research are primarily focused on open educational resources, OER, and open educational practices, OEP, in higher education. And more specifically, issues related to learning, teaching, and professional development. And Carina was awarded an ASCILITE Fellow in 2016 for her national and international contribution to learning and teaching through OEP. So could you please help me to welcome Carina, and I'll pass the time to her. Over to you, Carina.
Thanks, Alan. Thanks. And thanks again, everyone, for joining us in this webinar. This is an extremely busy time of the year for all of us in academia as the year comes to an end. And also because it's a busy week for those engaged with open educational practices in general. Like Danielle was saying, this is Open Access Week. And yeah, there are a lot of things happening in many institutions around the world, not only in Australia, but in many places that all celebrating everything to do with open access, including open access to data and research. And for us, dealing with teaching and learning, we include open educational resources in that package too. Okay, so I can here move my slides, which is good. I don't know if we are going to make these slides available, but if we will, you are able to access the content and where allowed it. It's share like. But before we talk about open educational practices and capacity, I would like first to talk about capacity building. Most of us have heard of it, have engaged with capacity building at some stage in our careers, or we still do every day, constantly. But really, it's been around, it's being used by universities and other educational and non-educational organizations for decades now to prepare and train employees in general, and academics in particular for us, to adopt new procedures, new technologies, new policies. And research also shows that it helps us to better cope with change. So what it is, but why do we do it? We do, well, I've kind of answered that question, but it can be a key to raise understanding and awareness and empower educators to make informed decisions about how to better adopt OEP, in our case, for learning and teaching. In fact, our research on OEP conducted in 2011 here in Australia show that higher education stakeholders, because that's what we talk to with a diverse range of stakeholders in Australia. So they believe that capacity building is a way to eliminate barriers and increase OEP engagement. So yeah, I'm sure, we all agree that our jobs, as I was saying in the beginning, our jobs are increasingly busy and our workloads are really heavy. So it has impact. It has impact on the way we see capacity building. So, and I believe in part because my research prior OEP was on staff development in higher education. So I believe that we need to provide educators with opportunities for building capacity, in this case here, OEP, if we want them to understand the opportunities that OEP brings to learning and teaching. Okay, let's move on to the following slides. I'm sure that most of you guys here are familiar with the concepts or definitions of OEP and OER, but I think it would be good to briefly revisit the definition of OEP in this case, as it's still a relatively new area of study. So, and then because of that, the definition keeps evolving. Is very fluid too, and each definition depends on the culture of the institution and resources of the organization. But there have been many attempts to define OEP, though. In this case here that I'm using this definition of Catherine Cronin, she is doing a PhD, and part of her research is dedicated to explore the definitions and nuances of OEP, which is very interesting. And this is a definition she put up recently in one of her publications, and I think it's worth visiting and understanding. So she says that open educational practices is a broad descriptor of practices that include the creation, use, and reuse of open educational resources, as well as open pedagogies and open sharing of teaching practices. So that's a very friendly one compared with previous ones. So it's brief, it's to the point, and I quite like this one. But I also think that OEP includes open assessment practices, infrastructure, for example, the use of open source softwares and technology. And also OEP has a very strong student engagement, for example, through the creation of, through the co-creation of content, sorry. Okay, yes, oops, great. So yeah, in Australia, capacity building to promote OEP seems to be the most popular activity amongst the universities experimenting in this area. So yeah, we are focusing only not only, but mostly in capacity building activities. And common opportunities for capacity building are in the form of workshops, seminars, webinars like this one, one-on-one consultancies within the institution. We do a lot of those. And of course, the development or reuse of existing online resources available on the website. So I believe most universities in Australia have a website or a page or a flyer or something that is related to giving, a bit of information about open educational resources and open educational practices, which is good. So other activities, other ways to promote OEP institutions have been in the form of small grants, small internal grants, and an example of this is the University of Southern Queensland. And they have developed an initiative, a very interesting one called Open Grants. So these are small internal grants that fund particularly activities that promote staff engagement with OEP, including the development of open textbooks. Other activities are also, the organization of forums and symposia. We at UTAS developed one in 2014, where we invited people across the country to come and, join us for the day. I believe CSU has also developed a forum, maybe the year after that. QUT has also some activities happening from time to time where they engage with the broad community. I was there in March. We also have, more organized offerings like courses that have offered certificates and badges, and others haven't taken the opportunity, like we are now, to promote OEP during the Open Access Week or Open Educational Week. And like I said before, these are weeks that are celebrated around the world. Open Education Week is in March, and Open Access Week is in October. Okay. So this is a free and open, oops, that's not what So talk about short courses, So this is an online and free and open short course that we developed on curriculum design for open education. And this is, at that time, we were interested in exploring the concept of micro course. So hopefully in future, we will expand this course, which is now for 20 hours of study, to 40 hours of study. So we can then use that to provide a micro credential towards one of our courses. Unfortunately, this short course was only offered once, but I'm showing it to you guys here because it is an open course. So if you wanted to have an idea what an open course is, you can go to this website and visit, and you can use the content, you can engage with the content, you can cut and paste the content. And it's free and open for everybody to use, so you're allowed to do that. Right, so we try to build capacity not only through programs but also and activities, but also through some tools that have been developed to help educators to understand what open educational resources are and how to use them. So this is an open education license toolkit, which is a tool that assists users and creators of OER, mostly content in this case, in Australia, for those in other places today, to make informed decisions about the use of open license in their content. I mentioned Australian. Although this is an open source software, it can be changed to different jurisdictions. But this one, if you go and visit, you will be able to see what you're allowed to do from your institution. So the copyright policies and open access policy at institution. And it's a very interesting tool because it also considers if you have created, if you are using third-party content, and all the different ways that we can engage with content. So it's very useful, I believe. And this was a deliverable of a project funded by the Australian government for learning and teaching, OLT. So it is at the moment available for everyone, and UTAS has committed to look after this website or this toolkit for another 5 years. Okay, this is another interesting, I believe, another interesting piece of resource to help educators to engage with content, to develop, reuse content. This is what we called the Continuum of Openness, which is, a combination of legal aspects, the technical aspects, and accessibility, of content. And the top part of that infographic. So the further you go down, the closer you go. So we go from a spectrum of very open, like, for example, license under public domain that allow people to modify and interact with content, to very close where we can't, it's behind a firewall and changes can't be made to the content. And I have all these resources available and for you guys to access if you're interested. Right. Yes, we have capacity building programs. We have some tools to help people to use these resources and to engage with practices. And we also have engaged with research and theory building, which is something interesting. So then, you know, this is all an attempt to further understand open educational practices and assist people engage with it, really. Because, as I mentioned before, this is still a very new area of study. And one of these conceptual theories that we have created is this one in Australia. So we have, this is not created by me, sorry, but created in Australia, is this one by Adrian Stagg, one of my colleagues. And this is called Continuum of Open Practices. We kind of like the word continuum. It's being used in this area for some time, really. So this conceptual model here aims at practitioners and also those responsible for designing professional development programs. And as you can see, it goes again from one being, you know, basic concepts of engaging with open OER to the end of the spectrum where we have more OEP than OER. So beginning is mostly content engagement, and then the end is more practice engagement, which is engaging students through the creation of content. The next one is, so this is another conceptual framework, and the name of this one is Open Empowered Learning Pedagogy, and was developed by Robin Smythe. It is an adaptation of her previous work, which explored learner-centered pedagogies and the possible interactions between learners and their peers, the teacher, the content, and technology. So the adaptation of this, so even though this model here, the open empowered learning pedagogy, it still supports learners interacting with other learners, with content and technology, it adds another dimension that is only possible through, you know, the concepts and the potential transformative of open educational practices. So therefore, this one here, the adapted one, includes student co-creating content that can be reused and remixed, and teachers that are facilitators and curators. So I think this model also helps educators and academic developers to further understand the potential of OEP and can certainly be used for capacity building activities, I believe. Right. I just would like to make it clear that this presentation doesn't really shows a comprehensive list of capacity building activities in OEP in Australia. Really, this is the things, and that's where the activity that we are going to run after the presentation comes handy, because this is just an attempt to show you guys some of the things available out there for those wanting to engage with OEP. But in this page here, in this slide, I've tried to include a few other opportunities available for anyone, you know, outside Australia, like for anyone, but these opportunities here are mostly, except the ANU coffee, online coffee courses, others are international, but available to everyone. So if you have had a chance to have a look at the ANU coffee courses, it's a great initiative. It's a capacity building, again, short opportunities. You know, they make like snapshots of presentations and activities. It's very interesting. And this week we have Adrian, which he is one of our colleagues from USQ. Adrian is putting a great amount of resources about open educational practice there. Very interesting. It's worth visiting. But the other ones, Open Washington, Commonwealth of Learning, and have also developed courses, short courses, and lots of interesting materials on OER and OEP. Open Washington has a course. Open Learn has a series of short courses. Some of them give badges and others don't, on lots of aspects about, you know, OER or OEP, being an open practitioner. I saw it yesterday. And the latest one, I think Danielle passed it to me by email, so thanks for that. It is the latest in course done. Well, perhaps the only one produced by David Wally and Steve Simmons? No, George Simmons. Yes, so it's a very interesting course. It is now in the edX platform, but there is also content that is outside the edX platform. So it has started, that one, but the content is worth visiting. So yeah, but this is, again, it's not an exhaustive list. There are many courses, many opportunities, many resources there to help people to use OER or engage with OEP. And I also would like to take this opportunity to invite members and non-members of ASCILITE community to join myself and Adrian Stagg in our little presentation, mostly discussion about developing an Australian open educational practice SIG, special interest group. And we are going to just present at ASCILITE this year in Toowoomba. And some of our aims with this presentation are to establish the basis for a SIG in OEP in Australia, and to provide OEP and open practitioners with a national level community of practice in higher education. We have a similar initiative in the UK, we have in the US, but we have nothing here in Australia, so perhaps it's time for us to engage at that level now, at national level, create a community of practice, and try to push this agenda a little bit further. And before we start our little activity, how are we doing in terms of time, Ellen? I think we're doing well. Okay, I will just.
Yeah, we're doing pretty fine. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So this is my last slide anyway. But yeah, I just would like to make a couple of points and maybe suggestions for capacity building in OEP if you want to engage with that activity in your institution. And you probably know most of this anyway, but it's always good to revisit. I think we should help educators to see the opportunities and the value of OEP for the students and for themselves, including opportunity for collaboration with colleagues within their own institution and beyond, creating efficiency in content development, enhance existing pedagogical approaches, or create even new ones. And enhance, this is all to enhance really lifelong learning. I also think we should help practitioners to see and understand that OEP can be linked to their current teaching practices. That adopting OEP doesn't have to be a parallel activity. That's what a lot of people think, that, you know, if you start accessing or using or adapting this new form of content, you are creating a totally different practice. It can be incorporated into existing practice too. And then we should do our best as supporters of academics and academic developers. I think we should do our best to know our audience so we can speak their language and to their needs. As I mentioned before, it is I believe academia is increasingly busy, and this is not likely to change anytime soon. In fact, it's kind of the other way around, and that and that OEP can help, I believe, educators with their practice, and if we can make them see that, it's a way forward. Okay. Any questions? Any comments? I missed my presentation. I think no. Okay. Chat. Okay. Okay.
Are there any questions that you would like to ask Carina, or any area that you would like to expound further?
I do have a question for everyone. As I said, it's what I presented is some of the things I know is going on in Australia in terms of capacity building opportunities for academics or, you know, educators in general interested in OEP and OER. We have developed, Ellen and I, we created a Google Doc for you guys to contribute if you want, because my question to you is, so the Google Doc link is just here. So we wanted to know what's happening in your institution in terms of OEP and OER. So are you, we have here, how are you organizing something? Is your institution, preparing something or engage with some activities in relation to capacity building or staff developing your OEP? We have some here. Oh, we have a question from Lorraine. An example of how someone has incorporated OEP into an existing practice. Well, I can give an example of my institution. Like we have not, unfortunately, gone mainstream yet, but there are some policies and some infrastructure we are developing so we can help people to do it. For example, we recognize open educational practices in our curriculum principles, which is a central document. We also recognize the engagement of OEP, OER, any engagement. You don't have to create, but you can revise, you can review documents, or you can review open OERs inside and outside the institution, or you can create micro courses and engage with MOOCs. And all of these activities, if you document those, is recognized now in our teaching performance expectations. So you can include your activities in your promotion at UTAS. We have also a repository. That we can upload those resources, and is open to everybody. And yeah, so it is, again, it's baby steps. We are all still learning about this, but there are a lot of activities in the UK too, and people developing and creating, co-creating content with students. And what else? Yeah, so I think Stu said he can help me answer that question too. Is that right? Would you like to come in?
Yeah, I actually worked in Washington State, around Seattle area. So I worked on that Open Washington project with a few folks. And yeah, so basically what we were doing is we were a consortium of kind of community colleges, and so every college did their own thing, but at my particular institution, we just basically started the conversation. I started a committee that was called Alternatives to Textbooks, and we just started talking about that. We also did what USQ is doing. So we didn't really call them micro grants, but basically whenever an instructor was given kind of a stipend, they were given release time from teaching and course development to actually work on open educational projects. That would include writing their own textbooks, developing OER, attending conferences, things like that. And basically everything that I had my rock stars create, then I licensed that. Part of the kind of contract with them was that it was to be open access. So we posted everything on YouTube, we did all that stuff. So from my experience, it's just like start the conversation and start talking to people about it. You don't need to like profess that you're an expert on this. None of us really are. But as long as that conversation's happening and people are aware that this is a thing and it's kind of gaining traction, then I think you're good to go.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. I agree with you, Lorraine. That's great. Yeah. I agree with you, Mr. That it's a no-brainer, really, when you explain to people, the benefits for everyone, really, and that, we are being paid by taxpayers' money, and this is just making available to everyone for access, and mostly for those who really wouldn't be able to access these resources in any other way. So yeah, no, I think that's good.
Well, a big, I guess, motivation for us in America was just the drastic increase in tuition prices. So tuition went up, and then textbooks are just an additional cost for all of our students. And I was working at kind of a lower SES school, so we just wanted to push that a little further for them, which is really good for them, I think. And I think an angle that isn't discussed enough in this is the actual pedagogical benefit for this. Like every academic that I've engaged with has actually said that it improves their teaching because they're able to draw upon a wider variety of resources, and they're not locked into like the McGraw-Hills of the world and the Pearsons of the world, right?
Yes, definitely. So now at Wollongong, so what's your work there? Are you working with these open education resources or practices? Are you engaged with that at all?
Engaged as much as I can. Right now I'm working on a project to kind of beef up our online offerings, but I'm trying to insert this into that. Our library is kind of taking the lead on Open Ed right now, but it's not as far along as USQ or even UTAS by the look of it, but I'm trying to make that happen.
Excellent. So I'll count on us. So we could help too. It's I found can be very isolating, the work within our institutions, because yeah, just that initial conversation that we have to have, and sometimes with my institution, unfortunately, I'm having several initial conversations, and we haven't been able to get a good number of academics still engaged, but we have some, but I wish we had more. So we have Chantal asking here, is there a way to start to change the culture?
Just whoever's willing. I've worked with a lot of academics who are very protective of their stuff, right? They create their PowerPoints and they want to copyright it all. They want to do all that. But as long as I call them yeah, exactly. I call them rock stars. Everybody calls them champions. Yeah. So whoever is willing and is excited about this stuff and is willing to share as well, yeah, go for it.
Yes, yeah. I also try to make them reflect and see that this is not very different from what they used to do, because most of them go online anyway and grab resources that are not even allowed to use sometimes. They go and they put in their presentation or put in their content. So I just try to make them understand that it can't be so different, and then they can use all these repositories where there are resources they are allowed to actually put in their teaching, because the copyright has been, it's being licensed in a way that creators give the right to users, and that they can, I try not to draw a parallel between teaching with this open content and from their teaching. I know that we can make innovative practices and we can, go that far, but at the beginning, I try to make them see that can be incorporated in their practice. I don't know, what do you think of this, people? Because yeah, it's very scary if you actually try to explain everything, and they do tend to be very afraid of sharing and controlling, which is understood too. They spend all their careers developing this content, and suddenly it's going to be exposed to everyone. So we have to be gentle, I think.
Agree there, yeah.
Can I ask a question here? For someone who is novice in this particular area on OER and OEP, perhaps we can start small. So, what's your advice in terms of how do we kickstart, getting people who are interested in this, and where do we channel them to, and what kind of resources are available for people who would like to kickstart some of these, practices within their own small little community?
So are you asking about like resources fund, about Stud, would you like to go first? I can see your hands raised.
Yeah, sure. Just to kind of get to let people dip their toes into this sort of thing. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Initial exposure. Yeah. So what we tried to do in Washington was we just treated it as an iterative process. So obviously, open education, there's lots of different, it's a spectrum of a lot of different tools, a lot of different practices, and we don't expect an academic walking in to be able to create OER, make a textbook right off the bat, right? So just introducing small kind of snapshots, small snippets of practice into what they can do. So what we started doing was we actually said, okay, well, are there any we approached it from textbooks. So are there any textbooks that you use that there's an equivalent piece of content available online that you could use? It didn't even have to be the entire book. It was just a chapter. And then they would go and find a YouTube video to replace that chapter. And then they would kind of build from there. And it's not like you're going to replace everything for an entire subject, but over time, maybe 2-3 years, you can maybe have an entire class that's open access friendly or open education friendly. And there's definitely, I think of this open ed thing as some people would say the word disruptive. We actually ran into the issue where we were trying to promote open textbooks, and then the library, or I'm sorry, our bookstores started coming back at us and going, hey, you're kind of going to be cutting into our operating budgets and profits and everything. What are you going to do about that for us? So it is a balancing act. There's a lot going on. We actually started adding textbook printers to our bookstores in order to alleviate that, so that some open textbooks were for cost. They weren't like $150, but they were like $20, and then that way the library or the bookstores could actually benefit from this kind of movement that we're trying to push forward.
Wonderful. So, Alan, in terms of funding, did you ask anything about funding? Like, how do we get supported?
Oh, I was actually more referring to resources in terms of, like, websites or blogs where, people who are, like, for example, academic developers who are keen to, use some of these resources, as well as to share, or maybe a small little community that they can work together, or, meet together like an interest group that, may provide that kind of initial support, as well as the continuing this kind of community in a sustainable manner, that they are able to continue to support one another, encourage one another.
Well, I think our little SIG is a way to start. Well, it's not established yet, so we are just waiting for people. We are just asking people around and let people know that we are trying to organize this type of community of practice. But we need a minimum of 5 people to create one, so we don't have that number yet. It's just Adrian and I, so that's why we are using this opportunity. And excellent, we can using this opportunity to get people engaged, and hopefully we will have that community, because there isn't, not that I'm aware of. Someone maybe will be able to oh, we have 2 more. Excellent, this is a great place to start. So yeah, that I'm aware, we don't have one in Australia yet, Alan. So this is a good day, a good opportunity to get engaged, I think. But yeah, there are places where you can find the resources, and I'm more than happy to share with everyone, really. So you have the resources, and you also have documentation. You have guidelines, like Commonwealth of Learning, for example, and other ICDE. For you, Lorraine, that went there, and you mentioned that, they have a huge stream, lots of presentations on open education resources and practice, because ICDE organization, the International Council of Distance Education, is heavily engaged with OER. So they do provide lots of resources and guidelines and things. So there are lots of resources available there. You don't have to go too far. You can just Google. But I'm happy to help if you guys need more. Yeah. In terms of funding, can I just say a little thing briefly? Because in Australia we lost OLT, which is the Office of Learning and Teaching, for Learning and Teaching. That's where most of our learning and teaching grants used to come from. So we lost that. We are kind of no funded at the moment, but some institutions like UTAS, I know USQ, and at the moment we are working on a little project with Charles Darwin University. We got an internal grant, it's a very small one, but in learning and teaching, to do a little bit of research in OEP. So an opportunity for individuals wanting to do that internally in their institution is to apply for the little internal grant, and use OEP as one of the areas of learning and teaching to be engaged. So I can help you guys with that if you wanted to do that. But most Australian universities have that little small grant that they run once a year. It's mostly learning and teaching for discipline, I think. Yeah. It's just being strategic, I guess.
Thank you so much, Karina, because I have also provided a section in the Google Docs for any one of us here who are interested to participate in the interest groups. I just listed, so you can provide your name, email address in that particular section of the Google Docs.
Yeah. So then, guys, also, if you know of any activity happening at the institution that engage staff, please go and put it there in Google Doc for us, or you can just mention here too, or use the microphone and talk about what your institution is doing in terms of OEP. Because it would be great to know. We work in isolation, like I was saying, and I guess it's easier when we have collaboration. Oh, I see you. Let's have a look. Yay! Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, everyone. I can see the contributions. Great. So is anything else? I will contact you too. I am preparing the paperwork because it looks like we will have one by the time we go to ASCILITE. So you're not an ASCILITE member? Not yet. Okay. But that's okay. It doesn't have to be a ASCILITE member. I will contact you once we have all done. So it looks like we will, which is good. Excellent. Oh, that's great, Helen. So,
yeah, we can arrange for a space. You can ask, and then we can, use Skype or any tool. Yeah.
excellent. So if you guys, yes, so you put your details there, we can arrange our first conversation about the SIG online. So we can hook everybody, together to continue discussing this. It would be great.
Yeah, if, for example, it could be during lunchtime, that kind of chat, or tea break, yeah, or towards the end of the conference that day. Yeah, it's like we can explore further on that.
Oh, yeah. Mm.
And I think because this particular recording will be also shared in the newsletter, so perhaps a line can be indicated, for those who are interested. They can send an email to you, so that you can also collate the names of those who are interested to participate in this SIG. Yeah.
Also, Chantal, you are planning to attend the conference. That's good. Oh, good. I'll be there too. It will be great to chat.
The tentative program for the conference is available at the website of the conference site, so we can start looking into the schedule as well.
Yeah, no, it's a great conference about all things technology enhanced learning, and is talking about professional development. This is a great opportunity for professional development. I always found a useful conference. Have you been to one, Stu? Stu? It's too short for. Have you been to an ASCILITE conference?
I have not.
How long have you been in Australia?
Well, I'm in Vancouver right now. I'm actually flying
Yes.
back to Sydney on Monday, so I'll be there until December 6th.
Ah, right.
So I think I'll just miss it, unfortunately.
Yes, because it is from the 4th to the 6th, yeah. So it will be too close to
Okay.
your departure, yeah.
And you said it's up in Toowoomba?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So this year, Danielle won't be able to attend either. Yes, but if you, we will try to get the online maybe happening, and we might be able to bring people from this webinar into the presentation too, the discussion, which is great. Okay. Any other questions? Ellen, is there anything you'd like to? Is this what you were hoping for in your fika?
Yeah, this is really fantastic because everyone here, we do have questions and we have the opportunity to exchange ideas and also explore the possibility of working together. And it's great that we are in the midst of forming a community, within this
Yeah.
particular session. So I really feel that this is really fantastic. Yeah.
Yes, no, I feel too. And like Stu said, this is a new thing still. We are learning. Nobody is really the expert. We are learning with each other, and we all have different experiences too. Each institution it's a different, totally has a different way of approaching this, and I'm really grateful that everybody has contributed, that people seem to be, and this is helpful too. It has been helpful, and yeah, I just feel like I've learned from you guys too. Thank you. This is great.
Yeah, just to add on, because we still have this particular Google Docs that we have just shared. So if you have other resources that you would like to share, please feel free to just provide the link, maybe at the bottom of the Google Doc separate section like resources that all of us could just put in there, and we could continue the discussion from here. And who knows, perhaps we can even start a small little community using Google Plus, for example, and then we can enroll anyone who is keen to just be part of that particular group. Perhaps that could be part of the SIG plan as well.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh, we can keep chatting here for the whole day. It looks like we are just.
Yes.
That's lovely. And Danielle, I can send it to you the file, okay, for Smythe chapter, because unfortunately it's not open access, but I'm sharing anyway. I am one of the authors, so I can do that, I think.
Oh yes, I would like to have a copy too.
Excellent.
Great. Okay.
Okay, well, thanks, Ellen, for all your help with this. So I'm glad it's worked well. So this was our first fika, wasn't it?
Yes, this is our inaugural figure, and this is the purpose of it, is to encourage one another, who have a similar interest, to come together and to exchange ideas and to share with one another and support one another in that sense, so that we're able to continue the discussion from here. So this is not the end of this particular chat here. We will continue the discussion and we can explore a possible alternative platform that we can continue to chat as well. Yeah. Okay, but thank you so much, Karina, and also everyone here who you share your expertise. Like even for example, Stu, thank you very much for your contributions, and everyone here. Yeah, I mean, really appreciate the yeah. Okay, we shall continue the discussion. Karina, please feel free to continue this chat if you want to, because I'll be logging out from here, but you have the moderators right. I will stop the recording, and yeah, yes.